Welcome in, Green Jeans. How you doing? What's up, Jade? Hi, Nine Tails. How you doing? Some is a clay. What's up, Tom? Welcome in, welcome in. Good and very full. Nice. That is a good way to be. I cheated today and I just made a mac and cheese thing. Mac and cheese bake. Ooh, bacon sandwich. That's also good too. Food is good. Food is good. Nachos from Taco Chicken. Oh. I mean, I'm not one of those people that believe bacon belongs on everything. Like, I've had a bacon maple cake. It's good. I just don't think it belongs as a dessert. Bacon is not a dessert. I'm sorry. Ooh, that's even better. When you can make a good, smooth gravy, that's hard. I mean, some of the gravies I've made actually require chunks, but those chunks are like meat or vegetable. Oh, nice. Yeah. Yeah, watching little ones is difficult. I know. So just so you all know, those of you in the central time zone, so these times will be central. For the possible future, I will also be, might see Superman tomorrow. Nice. I want to go see that. Even though I have my issues, like I was just going to say, give me a second. I'm just going to switch it over to talk time. I have my issues with Superman, and I might actually ask you all, because there's different people in here. The fact that, Snyderverse, really dark and gritty, not a big fan of it, to be perfectly honest. A lot of people weren't. So it's not really like a hot take, I mean, I realize that there's a whole lot of people like fighting for Henry Cavill as Superman, but he didn't get to play as Superman. He played more as, he played more like Omni-Man. To be frank, I mean, he was a good, strong character, but Superman also is supposed to have a human side, and you didn't see that. And I don't think that's Cavill's fault. Keep in mind, I'm not blaming Cavill. I'm blaming Schneider and the script. They didn't really let Superman be Superman. Although I have my reservations with James Gunn's Superman because this feels like Saturday morning cartoon, which sure is a palate cleanser, but I kind of want a little bit more of a happy medium, if that makes sense. But I'm actually kind of curious what you guys think. He's a Starman waiting in the sky. Yeah. I mean, I was given. Oh, but also, like I was saying, for the foreseeable future, Cryptic Taroxa, CT, me, and possibly Ghost. We're hoping Ghost. What's up, XO? We'll be able to do that 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock time block on Wednesday afternoons as just kind of like what I do Wednesday nights. It's just a chatting thing. We'll be riffing off of each other, having fun, talking with you guys, that kind of thing. I don't know how many of you'll be able to show up for a 2 to 4, but, it's going to be on the slate. I had a lot of fun this afternoon just gabbing with CT. In fact, for those of you that missed it, I'm releasing that video 9 a.m. this Saturday. Just to see what we got up to and what it's like. And that'll be on my YouTube. So now that the star of the show is here, XO, I want to ask, how's everybody doing? As a general, I know I've asked a few of you a little bit here and there, but as a general rule, how's everybody feeling tonight? Not from Earth, but he was raised on Earth. Yes. That's the point. See, Superman was one of my early role models. Nice. Very nice. I'm glad you're doing good. Sorry I surprised you with the afternoon stream, but I wasn't sure it was going to happen with what was going on, with how up in the air it was until basically this morning. And again, I don't expect everybody to be here every time. going to snooze the ad. I don't know how many of y'all have it, but I'm going to snooze it for the moment. Give me a little bit, 5 more minutes before I have to run it. Right. I know, and I know that you're a mod. I don't expect you to be at everyone, though. Solo leveling, I have heard a lot about that. Haven't watched it yet. I don't have a whole lot of time to sit back and watch things lately. I'm trying to get a lot of things, all my ducks in a row, so to speak. Pretty damn goid. It's goid. Better than good. It's goid. Okay. I will have to take a look at that. Responded to your Superman. I was agreeing with you that he's meant to be super, but also a man, not from Earth, but resembling enough of... Yes, I totally agree with you. I agree that he is super, but also a man. He's not from Earth, but he was raised on Earth by some very humble Earth parents. That was the trick. That's what made it work. Is that he was raised by some very good people, probably better than they should have been given the circumstances. I mean, to be perfectly honest, other than a few bigger gaps that they made, Smallville was a pretty good TV show for showing how Superman grew up. Yeah, it's a, kids teeny bopper show, but I think they did a pretty damn good job showing how he would be raised. That's my 2 cents anyway. Oh, exactly. In fact, it's more in my personal feelings that it's more important the family you choose, not the family you didn't get to choose. Right. Yeah, I mean, Superman did have an evolution over time, his story and everything. Because it was more important to just have the icon there. But like also I said, why Batman, people also ask, why is Batman more popular? Well, I can tell you why Batman's more popular. Because he's the human looking in on a bunch of gods and trying to keep pace. He's the one we can bond with and say, yeah, we can do it. No matter how unrealistic it really is. Right. What's up, T-Row? How you doing? Right. Kryptonite was invented for when the voice actor got sick. A lot of people don't realize that was Christopher Reeve's uncle, dad, somewhere in that. It was a family member. It was George Reeves. I think it was his uncle. Which is why it was so hilarious that Brandon Routh played him. Later on, played Superman later on because he's Christopher Reeve's nephew. I've got a silly answer for you then. I have not had a chance to get around to it, Tom. I'm sorry. I plan on it. Trust me, I very much plan on it. But I've been a bit busy. I was trying to get CT and Ghost together for today. You know, trying to get the plans worked out. Not just me. I mean, we were all working from our own sides. Ghost just didn't happen to have the time free. Right, I get it. Don't worry. I will get to it. I know you're really excited for me to hear it, or to read it. And I will. I promise. You know, I mean, I have a lot of things going on right now that I'm not used to. So I haven't been able to carve time out even to sit down and read. He's big enough for the Toy Story T-Rex. But I'm going to go ahead and run the 3-minute ad just so I can get it out of the way and I don't have to worry about it. Sup, Ghosty Boy? How are you doing? Like I said, I'm running an ad right now to get it out of the way for the next hour. Good. Glad you're doing great. I'm looking for tomorrow. Definitely looking forward to tomorrow. So that I have dinner ready for the wife so when she gets home she can just eat and all of that. I'm making a hybrid borscht and like Hispanic stew because I'm using beets and Hispanic seasonings and seeing how that turns out. Never done it before. I want to try it. Bowie! Hey, Tater. I just played the ad. I literally set the ad to play just so I could get it out of the way for the hour. Exactly. Our slip pals will be so glad to see us. Exactly. Bowie. Geez, if I realized you were going to go so goofy with everything, I would have gone a lot more goofy. As far as I know, everybody's doing good. That's what they keep telling me. What's your small problem, Mr. Green Jeans? Was there not enough belly for the food left? Didn't have enough room? Nice. I am actually kind of jazzed for that because that looks good. Well, okay, yeah, that is kind of funny. I mean, bro, that's good. I like that. I definitely like that one. I'm sure the first step, you know, is just to take it one step at a time. Oh, shoot. You deserved that. You deserved that music for that joke. Forgot that I left my external speaker on, so I was trying to play through there. So I don't know if it echoed initially. Oh, yeah, I know that feeling. And we're back. Right? Yay, ads are over. Yeah, I'm sorry. I still make a little bit of money off of those, but I realize that if I don't keep them at a certain level, the 50-50 split doesn't work as well. One step closer in every way. Each day I get a little higher Each night I go a little lower. Tater's good for it. Hey, I'm trying to respond to the jokes. I finally reached chapter 5 in the book, though, Green Jeans. I feel like I've reached a new step in life. That was pretty good. If you give me a joke I can riff off of, that means it's a good joke. If it's not a good joke, I just kind of ignore it and move on. I mean, come on, that's what I do. I mean, I got a million bad jokes. Somewhere in there's got to be a good one. Yeah, fired. Yeah, and then you absolutely refused to do something he requested of you until he gave you a jar of pickles. But honestly, I actually would like to understand, right? I mean, I don't blame you. But me personally, like, I've heard so many varying stories of the dog man that I don't understand how it is anywhere distinct from a werewolf myth. What, you mean the bludgeoning thighs? You know, every time you walk, Thunderstruck plays? So, do you guys have any questions for me? I'm waiting for Infinite to show up because, you know, she keeps forgetting to ask me about JFK. 7. Well, of course. No. Well, okay, technically, by a. Okay. 7 is a good round number. 8 is best, but 7 you can get by, but don't. You know, you can live on 6 for a time, but the longer you live on 6, the smaller your brain gets. Like, literally, your brain loses mass the longer you go without sleep. So, knowing how I was in my 20s and my sleep schedule, it's amazing I have any brain left. It's probably the size of a pea. Why do you think I've been telling you to get some more sleep, Ghost? I know that you get up earlier than me, and I know that you stay up later than me, and it's like, bro. All I gotta say is there's something that is wasted on the young. Sleep. It's not a matter of endurance and strength. It's literally a matter of personal health. The longer you go without sleep, oh my god. But yeah, why do you miss naps? You have like an hour for lunch. You can take a quick nap. Look, you know what else, you spend 2/3 of your life on? Going to the bathroom. You only get 30 minutes for lunch now? That sucks. There's a lot of things you spend 2/3 of your life on that you don't even resent enough. Like the amount of time you waste just doing certain things, if you start to think about it. Yes, they are, but I'm just saying that, we spend 2/3 of our time on so many different things that we don't realize that, sleep is just another necessity. That's all I mean. That's why I made the comparison of going to the bathroom. Some people it's more, some people it's less, obviously, but give or take, you spend about the same amount of time on the bathroom. Well, true. Oh, okay. I'm sure. Well, okay, here's another fact about sleep. We don't know why we do it. Like legitimately. There is no actual adequate scientific reason for sleep. Like the body should be able to evolve some system to not need sleep. But we don't, like, metabolically, scientifically, we don't understand why we sleep. Yeah. Because that'll kill you. That's one of the things is like we don't understand it. But even weirder, everything sleeps, even plants. Oh, uh-oh. You normally remember this stuff. But yeah, like if you leave plants in a sunlit environment for too long, they die because they can't sleep. Yes, Tater, you definitely have this. I know you got it. You're overthinking it like you usually do. You're probably pushing yourself too hard. Just say it. And that probably goes for most of you anyway. Not realizing that sometimes, hey, even me, sometimes just skipping out on something that you're doing. Oh, okay, well that kind of makes sense. Such a supportive community. Gotta love it, right? I don't know. It's just, it's an extension of kind of what I was talking about last night about, how tenuous being in the creator sphere really is. And it's something that hit me, right? Oh, yeah. I mean, I always miss it when Infinite's not here. But, everybody has lives. And I know she kicks herself when she can't make it for a talk stream. Oh, hey, there we go. Summon. No, I mean, you may have been lurking. I didn't know. But I'm glad you're here. How are you doing? Well, from what everybody was telling me, they're doing good. I'm doing good. No. No. I read that book. I am not going through that. That's torture. And it was a wonderful book. But yeah, like I was saying, in the creator sphere, it's right? It's so tenuous. You know, even worse is that something you did 10 years ago can be brought up and you can lose almost everything for it, even though you're not that person anymore. We forget, and I think this also kind of goes into our media nowadays. Ah, okay. That we forget that it's so tenuous. And it can be things that we didn't even have anything to do with. I mean, you look at the adpocalypse, you know, whichever one you want to talk about on YouTube and on Twitch, because somebody else did something. Advertisers are insecure on what they're going to do to you. So you lose, even though you had nothing to do with it. You know, I mean, and people say, oh, well, that's like every job, except for you forget that a lot of people forget that when you start rolling in creator sphere, when you start doing this, you're not making any money. You're not. I'm sorry, but you're really not going to make enough money. No matter how much your community tries to support you, there's only so much that your community can do for you until you reach a certain level. You know, you always hear about these creators that make millions or whatever. You know, you think they're rich, and it's like, not really. A lot of them, you know, have to reinvest. A lot of them are paying off the bills that it took to get into this and last for long enough to be able to reach that goal. I mean, most people had to wait 5 years to even gain any traction. Right? You know, I mean, it takes so much, you know, and there's so much time that you're not getting paid for. Yep, exactly. Likes, you know, likes and shares are great. They're wonderful. Well, yeah, because a lot of people can't sit there and wait to be found because of algorithms. I mean, YouTube makes one tweak in the algorithm and you stop getting stuff from even big creators. Well, relatively big. You know, because they're trying to push some agenda over here. You know, and people say, you know, oh, it's just, you know, it has combination what it has to do with what you watch. Okay, then explain to me why it's like, oh, I'll take a try on a brand new creator. You know, like, okay, I didn't really like what he did. I'm not going to downvote it, but I'm just going to push it off to the side. But yet, you know, my next feed is 15 of videos from that person or adjacent. Even though I didn't really like it. I didn't like the video. I didn't dislike the video. I just, like, no. I didn't even engage with it. It was just watching it. It's like, no, I'm not a big fan. Nothing wrong with what they did. It's just not up my alley. So I tried to move on, and yet I can't move on, and now my whole algorithm's screwed up. Yeah, exactly. You know, people don't realize how hard creating really is, how difficult it is. I mean, I've been putting out 3 videos a week for a year. Okay. You know, their music, short, which means I can't monetize them. You know, that's the biggest part of not being, you know, being held back on monetizing my videos. Because music's too short. To get a mid-roll ad, you have to have at least 8 minutes or greater. I think it's 8 minutes and 15 seconds or something. And I did respond that Gossip was going to be right back, right? Pretty sure I did. But, so it's, and I'm not saying, you know, again, I'm not saying anything. I'm just using my own experience. So it's really hard to monetize. So I'm not worried about monetizing the music. Exactly. And I think a lot of people don't realize how many different industries are like that. You know, I mean, we all know the trope of the actor going to Hollywood or going to New York, you know, and trying to make it big in the industry. We don't hear about the 5 to 10 years they spend trying to break in. You know, waiting tables and like putting out their script, hoping somebody sees them. Makeup artists. Yeah. We don't realize how creative arts are very undervalued in work. You know, like, oh, you just made it up. Yeah, let's see you do it. It's not a gimmick and it's not a trope. You know, it is a trope for a reason. But people forget the old masters. Right, homelessness while needing to look professional. Been there, lived that. You know, where you have to do what you can to survive. You know, even though you're trying to get on your feet and like, oh, you don't look professional. You know, or you're working out of your car and you're trying to, you know, you're working a job. And they just get tired of waiting for you to be able to afford anything. You know, and then you see stuff like, I hate to bring everybody down, but, you know, like what Sean Combs. Obviously, money trumps racism. Sorry. But he got off scot-free from some pretty heinous crimes. You look at the Epstein files that they're trying to release, or the lack thereof, that none of it is what we were told it is. You know, which side was it? Were they lying when they said they had all this cool stuff and, like, you know, they're going to release the client list and all of this? Or are they lying now because they realized how many people, how many dominoes would fall if they started saying something? Exactly. Well, okay, and here's the thing. All they say that Epstein was actually guilty of was self-trafficking. Like all of these things that he did were just for his own enjoyment. If that's the case, why is Maxwell in prison? You know, they had her on a whole bunch of counts. It's like, wait a minute. If what you're telling us now is true, she shouldn't be in prison. Because she was legitimately you know, done on crimes for trafficking to other people. Well, it is. Because they can't release those. No, it's because, I mean, Bill Gates is on the list. We know that one. His wife divorced him over it. I don't think they will. I think they'll leave her there because she's too much of a loose cannon. That's why they went ahead and convicted her, but that's also why she's still alive. You know, they forget that Jepstein literally played both sides of the aisle and all over the corporate world and all over the world. We forget that this may not be just our government that's in trouble if that client list gets out. I mean, we already know Prince Andrew lost everything. Yeah, he's stuck. I mean, his sentencing won't remember that the crimes he was convicted of hold no minimum sentencing. Oh, there's that. Right? Well, and you've just got to realize that money and power is what the world really works on. Oh, yeah. You know, I mean, in any other time in the world, Elon Musk setting up a third party called the America Party. I mean, just think about that for a second. Elon Musk setting up something called the America Party. The most un American person I know that's popular, that's famous, that swears up and down he loves America is just, it's so ridiculous. Um, a lot of things. Basically, how upside down the world is. You know, between Elon Musk setting up his own party. Which one? The South African super dork? The apartheid Palpatine? Um, elongated muskrat? Felon Muskovitz? Sorry. Yeah, that's my favorite, the South African super dork. Because he is. He's a child that never grew up. I cannot take credit for them. There is a YouTube creator, and I think he's also on TikTok. And I also know that he does a Twitch named Pissed Off Bartender. He's really hilarious. You can say bitch. He is a little whiny bitch. Right? Like, I've known several witches. Ah, okay. I like August. Yeah, Dardar Binks. I like that one. But I mean, again, that's the so insanity is that I can look at Elon Musk, and we all knew what was happening. He was being used for his money. He was being used for his money and his platform, because that's what got him into the halls of power. And as soon as that was no longer needed, guess where he went? And he's so pissed off at being used and didn't realize that he's trying to make his own political party called the America Party, when he barely even knows what it means to be American. And I'm not talking just because he's an immigrant. I'm talking because he's never had to live like an American. He's got to live in the halls of power. He was never poor. I mean, his mom is one of the oldest models on record that still works. Yeah, he conflates American and capitalist. And even that, he's not a true capitalist. That's the problem is that often people conflate capitalism for what this is. And what this is closer to crony capitalism. People call him, a broligarch, which I think is also entirely accurate if you divest it from the concept of oligarch. Because that's not what they are either. They're not oligarchs. That's actually not accurate, because in Russia they had oligarchs, where the state and these people worked hand in hand. That's what an oligarch. Whereas Elon Musk, while the state works for him, he owes the state nothing, and the state owes him everything, so to speak. Because they're paying for Tesla, they're paying for SpaceX. A lot of people don't understand how much of his wealth is propped up by subsidies. And to be honest, the Tesla is probably one of the worst EVs on the market. And some of the most generic branding I've ever seen. I mean, just take the Cybertruck. Excellent idea on paper. Why does it look like a low-res polygon from the 1990s, video game? Why does it look like a futuristic retro thing? Like, it's just dumb. Whereas, the smooth lines and everything of every other Tesla, those are nice. Yeah, it looks like a truck from GTA 2. The only problem is that I think they drove better in GTA 2. I mean, when you have a vehicle that weighs so much and can't do anything that a truck should do, like half of its battery power is being used by moving the truck. Oh, yeah, exactly. I think you're giving him too much credit. I remember seeing kids in second grade that acted like Elon Musk does today, and he tries to take credit for everything else. Like, oh, I'm a founder of Tesla. No, you bought out the two guys that actually started Tesla. Right? I'm not going to lie that initially I thought it was kind of a cool idea until I saw them in real life. Like, seeing the ads for them, it's like, okay, yeah, that kind of looks cool. Then I see it in real life and I'm like, you should have left it on the page. Like, in real life, those look horrible. And then I started learning a lot more about them. And my God, were those things just piles of garbage. Nothing in them works. The fact that Waymo is beating, or is it Waze? Yes, a literal dumpster fire. Right. And I've seen them wrapped. They look kind of neat, once. But it's so funny because I have a feeling that here shortly, Elon Musk is going to go the way of DeLorean. He made the same mistake DeLorean did. He lasted longer than DeLorean. But he's got himself in bed with some very bad people. And they're going to turn on him, and he's going to go to prison and end up being broke. And his money is going to become vaporware. Nobody's going to know where it came from and where it went. They're all going to say, oh, he invested in crypto, and that's what it was all tied up in. And then as soon as he was in prison, crypto dive bombed. Not mentioning that, basically everybody knew it was going to happen, so they rug pulled everything that he had a token in and siphoned all of his wealth to their pockets. It's one of the reasons why I would suggest nobody ever invest in crypto without some kind of security. The very thing that makes crypto useful to some people is the very thing that makes it absolutely stupid to invest in. That doesn't surprise me. If you only knew how well the algorithms work against you, but not for you. And even then they get stupid. But yeah, I mean, crypto is one of the most ridiculous things. If you look at it, like on the face of it, it's like, sure, people made a whole lot of money. And you have all these people like, man, if I wish I had invested at this time or that time. I'm not sure what that means, Rando. As former security? Oh, security. Never mind. The problem is that it doesn't for me because I know the use case for it. Like, there is actually a reason for crypto that could be useful. And I wish I had a bigger platform. I wish I had access to the right people. Yeah, security. Yes, Rando is. Bon Kiki reference security. Because, okay, if you centralize, actually have it secure, like, say, the Federal Reserve, digitize the dollar. Here's my concept. If you digitize the dollar, you have a backing, something to anchor that money on, right? And I even have a use case for NFTs, because NFTs could be used like we do bonds. So what you do is you buy with your cryptocurrency, your digital dollar, NFT bonds that come to fruition at a certain time. You sell that NFT back, you get the money back. Well, this will help level out the fluctuations in the price. Yes, I definitely do. I've literally watched through the whole thing and just how ridiculous it was, because the way they were using NFTs, like the way NFTs were used is not what... Oh, that too. Yeah. I mean, even though for me, the way Rando does it is a bit, far, but my God, it is so beautiful. But yeah, the way they were using NFTs was just as a link to a picture on a server. You literally could right click it and save it. Technically it was illegal, but who hasn't done that? Like, that's the worst kind of copyright protection. Right. See, but there are good uses for NFTs. There are use cases. And that's what I'm saying is that people like, and I'm wondering if that was the whole point. This sounds conspiracy, but hear me out. The reason why they went through all of that, why they pushed all of this, was for people not to take them seriously. Because now you have all of these open blockchain secured servers that you can swap in and out that nobody's taking any paying attention to. Oh God, Rando. See, that's hilarious. That's hilarious. You really should write up a stand-up routine. I seriously think you could be a stand-up comedian with what you do, dude. I know stand-up isn't necessarily where it was, but I mean, shoot, dude. You could do that kind of crap on TikTok. Hey, pickup lines that are ridiculous. Boom, 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 boom. You could do stuff like that, like the anti-alpha male pickup artist. And I don't mean that as in you're a bad one, but I mean these are the entertaining bad. Exactly. And that's what I mean is that it's not meant to be taken seriously. These are obvious jokes. Unlike what a lot of comedians have done, and they're trying to be taken seriously with their jokes, and it's just no, just have fun with it. Yeah, there's some bad jokes that you really shouldn't say, but I mean, there's others that are just funny. But what I was meaning by NFTs is that now we have all of these open NFTs floating out there that people can actually trade information on by just changing where that link goes to. And I don't think a whole lot of people realize that that is a very seriously secure way to pass information that nobody would be able to see, that nobody would be able to understand what's happening. You can't track it. And that scares me. Yeah, NFTs, the picture you see is just a coded link on the blockchain, and you can change out what's on that server where it goes to. Right. You're just having fun. So when people sit there and talk about, how they had this explosion of thousands upon thousands of NFTs that were minted on the blockchain. Well, the blockchain doesn't go away. Those are still out there. And those links can point to just whatever they want. They can pass the information. Now, did any criminals think of that? Has anybody really thought of doing that? No, I don't think so. But someday somebody is going to. And we don't know how that's going to look. Honestly, what I would do is I would try to get some sleep. And if you wake up early, set your alarm, maybe a half hour, 45 minutes early, maybe even an hour early, and do your best in the morning. Well, and see, that's the thing is I'm just a guy on the internet. I don't really have, I haven't really researched this stuff. I've watched a few videos of CoffeeZilla and Atozi and other stuff. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying is set your alarm for a little bit early and work on it in the morning. Give yourself a little time when you're fresh out of bed. That's actually very true, Rando. Yes, I've done that. I have this weird thing that I can't go to sleep while driving. I don't rely on it because there are times when I've been driving that I don't remember how I got to where I was. And that's when I pull over and realize, okay, but I don't actually go to sleep. Nice. And I think a lot of people don't realize that compliments hit differently if they're genuine. You know, everybody's looking for a pickup line rather than a compliment. And I don't think they understand that sometimes compliments are taken as pickup lines when they shouldn't be. They're like, hey, you're looking good today. Well, what is that supposed to mean? You're looking good today. You're well dressed. Makeup's on right. Your hair's done. Yep. I have literally woke up with QWERTY face. I was working on, I think, college. And I only mention that as, hair and makeup thing because I'm a guy and that's normally, what I. It's hard for a guy to say, spicy chicken attack. That's what I should have named that one, spicy chicken. Oh, yeah, exactly. I've actually had quite a few gay guys hit on me. And they're like, hey, I appreciate the compliment, but I don't swing for your team. I apologize. But I know a few people. I actually got fired from a job for shutting down my boss who was gay because he didn't want everybody else to find out he was gay and he hit on me. Yeah. Pissed me off even more is that I was the one that gave him the ride home. Yes, Tater, go to bed. If you go to bed now, you can wake up at about 6 a.m. That's 8 hours. Remember to set your alarm. Exactly. I know school's early, but if you set an alarm for 6 in the morning, you'll get plenty of sleep and still have a little bit extra time to work with things. Okay, I'm just saying. Good night. Sleep well. Sleep deeply. Wake up energized in the morning. Raring to go. And you got this. And besides, your teachers have every confidence in you. Eep, eep, the sleep. Burb. No, the burbs aren't here, Ghost. They're probably in bed. Well, exactly. Because most people don't realize that guys hardly ever get compliments. Unless they are literally looks maxing, trying to get the compliments. They don't get them. Love you, kiddo. And I think that's actually something that's fueled this loneliness pandemic, whatever you want to call it. Because I think it's appropriately is a pandemic because it is across the world. And it reaches all sorts. I mean, do you think Elon Musk would be acting the way he was if he got proper compliments at certain times of his life? Do you think he would have such a fragile masculinity if he didn't start losing his hair at an early age? Well, yes. And people are conditioned to take that from us, that's all we know. And it's like any guy that's caring has to be a little bit effeminate. I mean, you know how many people would drop their jaws? My 6'4", 6'5" frame, 300 pounds, and they ask me what I do for a living. And I look at them and say, I'm a housewife. It is so hilarious watching their faces. I love doing that. Because at the time, technically, I was. I was the one staying home with the kids. I was the one doing the laundry. But these people knew me, and they would never think, I watched Way of the House Husband. Excuse me? Come on, man. You know me. Did you watch the live action shorts of it? Because there's actually a live action one, too. Nice. But see, I like being a caring, nurturing person. That's actually what I'm good at. I'm good at taking care of people, thinking things through, doing things for people. I do. See, when I listen to, like, when I'm editing, it sounds so different than what it does in my own head that I don't really know how it sounds. But yeah, I mean, I know people like listening to me talk. Well, yeah. But I mean, here's the funny part is I also taught my kids, martial arts and sparring. That was our physical exercise. We also had these things we called boffers, which are basically fun noodle wrapped bamboo sticks, so they wouldn't hurt anybody, but you could feel it when you got hit, and a little weapons combat. Teach my kids to take care of themselves. And people are like, oh, would you have done that if it was a boy? I was like, hell yeah. Or no, they asked me, would I have done that if it was a girl? And I'm like, it was 2 girls. Yeah. Hell yeah. My wife and I have been together I've been with my wife longer in my life now than I have lived without her. I don't know what I'd do if, something happened. Yeah. Right? I mean, it was so much fun because, me, my buddy, and the 2 girls, hell yeah. I wouldn't mind getting some flowers every once in a while. My wife hates flowers. I can bring home the chocolate, not a problem. But, she's not a big fan of getting flowers. I tried that early on. Nobody's ever bought me flowers. Actually, no, never mind. People have bought me flowers. But it's just, I don't think people really understand that, one, the gender norms that we have come up with that we think of predominantly guy, predominantly girl, are social constructs and have nothing to do with actual biology. I think what fuels a lot of the trans debate right now is that people don't realize that they can do things that are caring and friendly. Right, exactly. The guys can do things that are friendly and caring and not have to be effeminate for it. One, nobody's ever thought of me as being effeminate unless I tell them that, I have never been accused of that. Aha, you found one with a flower. There you go. Oh, true. And also, by the way, lavender is also toxic to cats and dogs. So be careful with that one. And yes, I do love that emoji. That is a pretty one. And I just learned a long time ago, because I had a very unique growing up, and I realized that I would never have the approval of my dad, no matter what I did. I started work at 12. I mowed lawns. I did this. I actually had a Social Security paying job when I was 12. I was working at a municipal pool as a swim aide, learning to be a lifeguard. Well, okay, true. And I worked all the way up until 25, 28. No, I think it was 28, without a break. I had over 253 jobs from the time I was 18 to 25. Sorry, it was 25. And I just never really had a break. Like when I was on shipping and when I'd come home for the 2 to 4 months, I was cleaning ventilation ducts. I was working. And then when my kids asked me if I could homeschool them, I was just like, wait, what? That just threw me for a loop. I had never really thought about it. And because I was off the ship, we were living off of some of the money I had left over. Wife was working, and she doesn't really like being the stay-at-home mom. She'll do it, but she doesn't really like it. And, she got this job as a union laborer, paid well. We went through a little bit of hard time, but, paid well. So, yeah, I stayed home with the kids because she never knew what time of day she'd be working. It was really hard for me to get, like, a second job or get a part-time job. And what I eventually landed on was cleaning movie theaters after the last showing. I'd work 3 to 4 hours a night, go to bed, wake up, homeschool the kids, take care of the house, that kind of thing. And that worked really well for a long time, up till now. Now the kids are off and doing their own thing, so I got to try and figure out what I'm going to do. This is apparently what I landed on. I guess extending that whole concept of how I treated my kids, how I treated, people in general, is what I'm doing here now. When I talk about, like, this reminds me of being at Denny's and talking with a whole group of people and stuff like that. This is legitimately what I do. I talk with people. People wonder how I can just sit here and talk for 2 hours, and I'm like, 2 hours? The only reason why I quit at 2 hours is because everybody in my chat has a life. I could do this for hours. You guys ask me questions, I can talk. You guys don't ask me questions, I figure out and ask you questions. And I don't try to make it super upsetting or super powerful or anything like that. And just a relaxed, good conversation. That to me is more important than anything else. And yeah, we're all sitting down, we're all doing our own thing, enjoying, just being around. And sure, I've got to talk about some topical things, occasionally, but like the whole JFK thing, one of the guys that was part of the investigation of one of the reports on the JFK, it was one of the later ones. He wasn't one of the originals. But when he was looking over evidence, salons? I did not realize that. That actually makes sense. Because houses used to have a salon, and that would be why, when you go to a hairdresser's, it's known as a salon. No, well, saloons too. But to me, saloons would have a different connotation. But what do I know? Makes sense. All right, guys, I'm going to run a quick ad. Salons with alcohol, yes. Salon.com. I'm not sure if I want to click on that. Salons with margaritas. But anyway, I'm going to run an ad because I want to take a quick break, and I will be right back. Well, of course we did. And I'm back. You're a mod, Infinite. It will link it. Oh, there is cocktails that... Oh, exactly. Yeah, they have edible glitter, mocktails. There is so many different things you can do. Well, I would be careful with the edible golds. Go with the standards, but you have to be very careful with where you get them. Yeah, when has questions ever been a problem? We're not in class. You don't have to raise your hand, gossip. I believe there's some... Now, are they the actual passed on spirits of people? I don't know. Is it like the stone tape theory where it's just energy that's been absorbed and then replaying out? I don't really know because I've never been able to experience it firsthand. other than when I was a real little kid. Well, yeah, true. Ooh. See, I've always wanted to do stuff like that. Like when I was, I'll tell you all a real, a story from my childhood. I sent it into Raven probably 2 years ago, year ago. I don't know. Um, I don't know how long ago I sent it into Raven, but it was from my childhood. Ooh, nice. Will you share it on the server? I mean, I don't know how comfortable you are with that. I don't know. I'm just curious if you'll share highlights that, don't dox yourself, obviously. Um, if you're not, that's fine. I get that. Not everybody's like me and just doesn't really have, a worry. But my experience is I was really young. We lived in Montana. And yes, stay safe above all. I lived in Montana, little, um, well, not so little, but in a little town called Bonner, about 6 miles outside of Missoula. And so it didn't have enough rooms for all of us kids. There was 2 bedrooms downstairs, 1 bedroom upstairs. We're talking classic, house. My bedroom was the stairwell. Like how you go upstairs, have that landing at the top of the floor. That was my bedroom. I was 4 or 5 years old. And my bed happened to be put between 2 things that are called eave accesses. They're like not attics, but you can go into the attic eave, and like take care of things, do things. Ah, okay, yeah. See, attics. Attics have and this is technically, this house was converted from having an attic to having upstairs bedrooms or bedroom. Sorry, my brother had the bedroom. I was upstairs in the stairwell. And my bed and these eave accesses are just these little quarter doors, not even a half door, but like a quarter door. And my sister and I were exploring in there one time, and we found this journal that the last entry of it was from like the 1870s, 1880s, somewhere in that neighborhood. It was pre-1900. So this house was old. And I was a real young kid, woke up late at night, and I saw lights at the end of my bed. The door was open, and like it looked like a giant spider leg coming out, like that pointed tip. Absolutely terrified me. Could have been a nightmare. On a different night, I heard somebody walking up the stairs. So I looked over, and I could see through the railing because there was like this nightlight on the stairs that was always there. And so I could see the stairs. And there was a 3-toed footprint, 3 toes forward, 1 toe back like a bird, that was impressing itself into the wood of the stairs. It wasn't carpeted stairs, it was wood. And when it got to the top landing, top step, they just disappeared. Nobody believed me. Nobody believed me when because I'd wake up screaming. And they just thought it was like a raccoon on the roof. It was lights from downstairs. It was my brother. It was this, it was that. Okay, entirely possible. I was 4 or 5 years old. I was a young kid. But I broke my ankle. So I couldn't make it up the stairs. So I had to swap with my sister. And my sister had to sleep up there. She had the exact same experiences as I did. So, and my sister was 8, 9, 10, somewhere in that neighborhood. Well, let's see, 7 to 8. Sorry, 7 to 8 years old. When it's the exact same experiences, that gives weight. Now, have I had any experiences after that? I'm not sure. I know that when Oh. Oof. Well, don't let him listen to the song I released a few days ago. Or was it just yesterday? No, probably just yesterday. Because that's a song about a night hack. What did I call that one? Give me 1 second. There she was. I actually happen to really like that song. I think it was pretty catchy. But YouTube algorithm is being the YouTube algorithm, and whatever. You heard it and thought I had heard about your ex? It's entirely possible. Did your ex like to sit in a corner, in a rocking chair knitting? And I'm trying to build up some like creepier songs that I want to put into a Halloween playlist or a creepy song playlist. So I'm actually redoing some of the older songs and giving them more of a Halloween creepy feel when I do my Wednesday redo songs. Because I like having fun. In fact, you reminded me, I might actually do a song about the Hat Man. Because the Hat Man is also one that fascinated me. I watched a documentary on the Hat Man, and when you hear somebody describe the Hat Man and how ridiculous it sounds, to me that's like, okay. But when I was watching this documentary and how they did a really good, accurate representation of what people call the Hat Man, and that actually haunted me. And now I know, like, not an actual haunting, but the imagery haunted me. Like, oh, it's just a shadow with a big hat on, and you can sometimes see the eyes and the teeth. They, like, abnormally white. And they did this graphic of it. And for probably 2 weeks, I had a hard time going to sleep without that imagery hitting my head. So I can just imagine, knowing that I watched a documentary about this, and that imagery had that visceral reaction to me. That you're not unique in that description. I swear to God, that's not unique. That is a very common description of a figure that's been haunting you for years and gets closer and closer. And then at some point it just stops. This is something that has plagued humanity for years. If you look back in the old mythologies, some of the gods, how they described, are what we would consider a Hat Man today. Our descriptions of them are more for modern audiences. But, I mean, if you think about it, a Hat Man, a demon with horns, we describe it as a Hat Man. But back then, they probably didn't have a wide-brimmed hat like that. So they described it as something with horns. Kind of makes sense once you think about it. And that's just my 2 cents. I wish I could remember the documentary about the Shadow Man or the Hat Man. It was I want to call it a low budget, but I don't know if it was technically low budget. But it absolutely, like, I'm a pretty stable figure. I've had some weird crap happen to me, but it's not like I'm easily scared. And just having that imagery stick in my brain gave me anxiety for a week or so because I'd never experienced it. It wasn't anything I understood, and that's why I sought out the documentary to see what people were talking about. And it's like, if that, just knowing that imagery viscerally scares me, because the simple description doesn't make any sense. It seems, if you haven't experienced it, I should say, it seems so like, well, why are you scared of some guy in a hat in the corner of your room? Or why are you scared of some hag sitting in the corner of your room? Some old lady just sitting there. Well, Because it's scary. Like, that's the thing is that at some visceral level within us is a fear of this thing. And we don't know why. We don't know why it scares us. And that's probably the scariest part, is that we don't understand why. Well, from what I understand, the only times that I've heard of like the Hat Man or something making a resurgence is in times of duress, or you've compromised yourself, your morals, or compromised something, about you. You've done something. So, take that for what you will. I've always wanted to play with the Ouija board, but I have an idea of how I want to do it. I don't want anybody touching the planchette. If it's supposed to have some kind of ability, I want to set up like a little remote control, or not remote control, but a little powered little thing that doesn't have any external antenna, shouldn't be able to get any external signals, and just set it on the board and see what happens. It's got power, it's got the ability to move, control it. I want to see if I can get it to move on its own. Just like I want to take a haunted house, whatever, somebody tells me it's a haunted house. I want to take those subharmonic frequencies, that people say, oh, that's what causes hauntings. And I want to pump more into it, because if that's what causes hauntings, I want to pump more energy into it and see what happens. But I also, as a control, want to take a house that nobody has considered haunted and pump that same sound waves into it, and do the same thing with EMP. Increase the electromagnetic phenomenon that's happening and see what happens. And see if there's any kind of cross-pollination, like, oh, you record, EVPs in this house because you're getting these, for whatever reason, the sound waves are decaying to hearable levels, and you're hearing it on a certain level. So, okay, well, that explains that, but what if it doesn't happen? What if it just nothing happens? It's nothing. Just because you can say, oh, it's subharmonic frequencies in this area, that's why people think it's haunted. What if the spirits or whatever are feeding off the subharmonic frequencies? Why not pump more in? We've tried that with EMP. I want to use every trope in the book. Let's push that. Let's have some fun. I'm tired of the shysters. I'm tired of the ghost adventurers. I'm tired of taps, all of these fake things, because they're trying to push for real, oh, we want a real thing. Exactly. I want real evidence, because I do believe it's out there. I believe it's probably some scientific phenomenon that we don't quite understand. It might be something, but if we can understand it, right, that would be super cool. I would love to do that. I had an experience where I was standing outside of a buddy's house because we were doing some ghost hunting, and he was renting this old house. Like, it had a history. It was at one point a brothel for loggers, and then at another point it was a Masonic temple, and then it just ended up being this house that people owned that they'd rent out half of it, and the other half was their storage. What part are you talking about, Infinite? Oh, ghost hunting. Never mind. So, I could hear activity going on inside the house. And, we did a test because for some reason, I have this like null field. I've been told, like, by several ghost hunters that I'm absolutely useless to go ghost hunting with, because for some reason ghosts just leave when I'm there. I don't know why. So I could hear things happening inside the house, like poltergeist type activity. I mean, like hearing drawers shift, spoons being thrown, all this sort of stuff coming from inside. More activity than what my two buddies inside could make on their own. And, right? And as soon as I crossed the threshold when they told me to try and come in, it all stopped on cue. Like, I crossed that threshold and it stopped. So that's another quick experience. But I also stayed the night in that house, which my buddy said there were safe rooms and there were unsafe rooms. And I took one of the unsafe rooms. And this is the only time in my adult life that I could say I actually experienced a feeling that there was something there that I could not see, that I could not perceive on any what I would consider physical level, but on a spiritual level, on a subconscious level, however you want to put it, I knew there was something there. In one of the rooms, the closet had been boarded up. Like, boarded up. It was a fake wall and everything, but somebody had punched a hole through the wall at some point, or something had. It was way too perfect circular for it to be, but you could tell it wasn't intentionally done. I don't know. I honestly don't know. But this hole, and they had used like a paper plate to cover it up because nobody liked that hole being uncovered. But it was too perfect, but also too rough to be intentional. Like, it was a weird hole. I can't explain it. And I just moved the paper plate to the side, and I got like a sudden blast of this, for lack of a better term, dark energy on the other side of that wall. That energy was dark. And I just looked at it, into that hole. I mean, but I felt like I was looking at something's eyes. And I said, you stay on your side of the wall and I'll stay on mine and we're all good. Right? And I was the only person that he had ever known that slept all night in that room and didn't leave. The other thing is that in front of the fireplace, like a roaring fire, I mean, it had to be 90 degrees in that front room. But if you stood in a certain position in front of the fire, it was cold. Like, you could feel a cold draft, and you're looking all over. And there was nothing that would give you a cold draft. Like, there wasn't a ceiling fan. You're not in a corner where it would blow through. Like, there was no explanation. I mean, and I tried to figure it out. I even had one of those wind meters, and it would register 1 to 2 mile per hour wind when there's nothing there. Like, you could see it spin. It's not very powerful, but you could see it spin. And it's a cold wind, and you don't know where it's coming from. It made no sense. So I guess, I had some experiences, but any kind of, like, real active, like seeing a form or something, I've never done. I remember one time we were walking out to a place that was supposed to be, like, really haunted. And, it was a local legend spot. We're all walking out there, and we had a group of, like, 7 or 8 people. And off the side of the trail, you could see this stuff glowing. Like, just this real low-level glow. And it's just like, what the hell is that? Me and my buddy run over there, and we look, and it's like, it was bioluminescent or phosphorescent mushrooms that shouldn't be there. Like, that's the closest to a weird thing. It's like phosphorescent mushrooms shouldn't be above ground. But that's what they were. You could see them. They glow in the dark. Very faintly, but you could see it. So faintly that you couldn't even pick it up on camera because the cameras at the time just wouldn't pick up we didn't have enough time to set up the aperture for as long as it would take. Put it that way. But, I mean, so spirits, stuff like that, yeah. I haven't had any direct evidence, but I've had enough other evidence to make me go, there's something there. Do I know what it is? Can I explain it? No. Does that mean there is no explanation? No. As I've said before, and probably will become famous for saying, just because you can explain a thing doesn't mean that that is the explanation. And just because you can't explain something doesn't mean there is no explanation. And what I mean is like, I could sit there and look at that trail and see the phosphorescent mushrooms. Well, that's the explanation for the glowing. They glow because they're phosphorescent mushrooms. Sure. Until you realize that phosphorescent mushrooms grow in caves. They don't generally grow above ground because they're very fragile to sunlight. So why were they above ground? Why were they glowing? At the time, I didn't realize that maybe we should have taken a sample, taken it to the college for, biology test to see exactly what it is. Was it somebody that had a glow stick and sprayed it on the mushrooms? Were they naturally bioluminescent? Was there some other factor? I didn't think about it at the time to take, samples. I would have now. That's just my thoughts. I also believe there are aliens out there. Maybe the spirits and the aliens are somehow conjoined. I don't know. I mean, maybe all the cryptids are conjoined to it. Maybe there's a lot more to the world. Ooh. Luckily, most of them, by the time you would have done that, are non-toxic. Just saying, there used to be very toxic, very bad for you. And that's why there's a difference between a glow stick and a Kim light. Just so you know, glow sticks like you get at Halloween or for raves are perfectly safe. They're non-toxic for the most part. I mean, I wouldn't be doing shots of it, but Kim lights are not safe. Don't recommend the green flavored ones. Green Genes. Work on your flavoring. I realized how that could be taken, and I apologize. I was not meaning it in any inappropriate way. Does that tell you how many kinds of people I've been around that, made me think of that after the fact? Yes. Go back to the Nazi zombie gas flavor. That'll work for me. Tastes like mustard. Sorry. And I know that's a different war, but, hey, does this taste like cyanide to you? Just doesn't have the same ring to it. It's like, oh, that tastes like mustard. Why are my sinuses bleeding? This probably isn't a good thing, right? Hey, it'll be the last thing you eat for the rest of your life. Like the old joke, teach a man to, or build a man a fire, and he'll be warm for the night. Set a man on fire, and he'll be warm for the rest of his life. I don't know. I talked a lot. What do you all think? What do you all think about ghosties and spirits and stuff like that? Because I think there's a lot of truth to it, or else the myths and legends wouldn't have persisted for so long. That's mostly the proof I need. Too many people pass off old myths and legends as being, oh, they were just superstitious. No, they were trying to describe something that they couldn't explain. and to the point of, why is there a white woman myth in just about every culture? Oh, the lady in white. Why? Why does every culture have some version of the lady in white? Some lady with a dress, and almost very often, it's a woman that was cheated on, right? I mean, it's too fascinating of a subject. And I think, we'd have a better chance of investigating ghosts and spirits, or whatever you want to call them. Oh, when you've lived in Japan? Dude, that's awesome. Well, okay, first, you'd have to have been married to the person and had children by them, decided to drown your own kids or kill them in some manner, and then yourself by jumping off a bridge or some other, thing near a body of water. Is how the average woman in white myth, right? Well, and that's why there's probably so few of them, is because it requires a very set, specific circumstances. But Ghost, that is really cool. You lived in Japan. Was your family military? Or, because, I mean, to be perfectly honest, that's awesome. I always wanted to at least visit Japan, and which, okay, technically I visited Japan for like 3 hours. I was at Tokyo Narita Airport, and it was too much that I couldn't leave and come back to get my next flight, and I was mad. Because I wanted to go see Tokyo. So, that's cool. So were you down in Osaka at that military base? Right? Osaka is where I don't know. I just think that's absolutely fascinating. I moved around so much, but I wasn't a military brat, so I didn't get to go to cool places. I got to go to towns like, Winnemucca, Nevada, Centralia, Washington, California City, California. Places that were under construction. Bonner, Montana, not to be confused with Bonner's Ferry, Montana. No, I just think that's cool. Did you ever watch a videotape you shouldn't have? Okinawa. Okinawa. Not Osaka. My fault. I apologize. I will do my penance later. See, that's cool. Like, I don't know. I think it's cool. I would love to live in another country for a while. I've visited them, but I would love to, even if it's 4 or 5 years, or even if it's a year, I would love to do that. Just go visit and spend some time, get to know the culture. Because honestly, I think that's the only way my brain's ever going to learn a different language in depth. Is by full immersion. I have tried so many different times. I mean, I know a little bit of Spanish, and if I'm around it long enough, I can pick it up. I can pick up their meaning. Can I speak it back to them? No. Do I get the general feel of what they're trying to say? Yeah, because I've lived around Spanish speakers quite often in my life. But I also watched enough anime between 12 and 18 that I could go to the kitchen, grab something to drink or eat, come back and not miss a beat in the story. Because, I mean, I prefer subs. I like hearing the voices in the original language. Oh, wow. So you might have 1 foot in the grave and 1 foot out. Might explain your name, Ghost. Hey, that's actually one of the mythos. if you've almost died. Which, I mean, if we're talking about that, I best, I should probably call myself a ghost. I've been struck by lightning twice, or at least really close. And actually, no, I have to. Lightning struck really close to me twice because I don't have the scars of a direct hit. But I knew as a kid, all I knew as a kid was that we were running across the desert trying to get out of the storm. And I ended up 20 feet away, not remembering jack. So, I mean, at least a part of it coursed through me because I had a blowout on my shoulder and out my ankle crossways. Ghosty Chan. Right? Yeah, that definitely needs to be told. Hey, maybe that'll be what we talk about next Wednesday, the times we've almost died. Let me tell you about the time I almost died. It's like, which one you want to hear about? I mean, you want to hear about the time that, car accident happened all the way around me and my car wasn't touched? Which has happened to me twice. That I've been really close to lightning being struck, running across the desert like an idiot because a storm was coming in. I want you to want me. Oh, yeah. Oh, God. How many times have I gotten heat stroke? 3, 4 times? And what sucks is that every time you get heat stroke or heat exhaustion, you weaken your resistance to the next time. So, I went this far or that time, so I should be able to last a little bit longer. Like, no. That's actually something that breaks down your will. Or breaks down your ability to resist, from what I understand. Is that every time you get heat stroke, heat exhaustion, it's easier for you to get it the next time. Which sucks. Or do you want me to tell you about the time when I almost got hit by a lifted truck while I was biking and ended up sliding the bike underneath of it? Ooh. Was it from heat exhaustion or really bad allergy attack? Because I've heard that you get so much pressure that your body has to release it somehow. But I've also heard that heat exhaustion, heat stroke can do that. Ah, well then you should move a little bit further north, buddy. Like Maine. Then get some sleep. You have a wonderful night. And we're probably only going to be talking for another 10, 15 minutes anyway. Right? See, I'm pretty heat tolerant. But, because I've suffered so close to heat exhaustion so many times, I'm not as tolerant as I used to be. And sleep well, XO, to paraphrase a raven. Be the best can be you well sleeping. Actually, I was looking into moving to Maine a while back. This was many years ago. Well, not that many. But that was on one of the places on my list to move to. I just want to find some place where I feel at home. I think that's my biggest thing is that I don't really feel at home in any of the places I've lived for most of my life. And I don't know why that is. Well, I'm not going right now. I don't know where I'm going. Might end up, in Minnesota, Michigan. Right now, might end up more Central Texas because another job's going opening up there. So I might have to take a break for a little bit while I move. Right. Like, I don't know where I'm going. But see, I've also never been anchored to any place because I moved so much when I was a kid. The only reason why I stayed in Washington so long is because I was raising my kids. What wasn't expected? Infinite. I don't know what was unexpected. I am curious. I don't know who you were talking to. Oh, yeah. Ah, that part. Okay. I mean, and don't get me wrong. I don't mind Texas. Texas is fine. It just doesn't feel like home. Lawless and brawless. Yeah, see, and that's actually why I wanted to visit Maine and possibly moving there. Oh, I don't know if I'm ever going to leave Texas. I mean, these are just things. I've only been in Texas a year, and it's not like it was a place I absolutely wanted to move to. Well, it just rhymed. Has the same beats to it. But, I'm not, like I said, I'm not saying that Texas is bad. I don't know if I'm going to leave or not. Because, it's not like I hate it here. I just haven't been here long enough, and it just might grow on me still. It's Texas. There's nothing wrong with it. Well, that's just when you wrap a towel. Well, and I think that's part of my problem is that I can't really say I'm native anything. I haven't lived. Like, I was born in Montana. But by the time I was 7, I was in, or 5, 6, I was in, Nevada. And then I moved to Washington. Then I moved back to Nevada. Then I moved back to Washington. Then it was Oregon, Southern California, back up to Oregon, back up to Washington. And back down to Oregon, back up to Washington. I even looked at moving in back to my old town in Winnemucca. But I don't know, the whole place was just kind of ridiculous. They argue with you when you're going, wait, you guys work 12 hours and your commute to work is 2.5 hours one way? See, and I think that's my problem is that I'm too close to the eastern side. Like around Texarkana, I like that. But here in between, I'm not a big fan. I like desert. I like the dry. But I also haven't visited the beach in Texas, so, I might need to take a trip. My mom was down in, I'm probably going to pronounce this wrong, but Palaqua for a while. Well, just a little, I guess, fishing area. Well, she had parked. She wanted to be by the coast, experience the Gulf, and that's what she did. Or Palacocious? I could be spelling this wrong. That doesn't look right. It was something to that effect. Let me see. See what it auto corrects too. Oh, okay. I was right my first time trying. That. My mom was down there, but when they were when they were when the hurricane was coming through, when that storm came through, she got out of there in a quick hurry. Ran all the way to Hobbs. I can't remember if it was on the New Mexico side or the Texas side, but it was a little town out that way. Which, I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't blame her. Ended up nothing really happened, but she wasn't going to sit there and go through that again. We experienced way too many floods and heavy rain to really care that much. Like I said, it's just a tiny little fishing village type thing. At least I assumed you meant Palaqua or Palaco. To me, it looks French and it's Palaqua. I could probably, I mean, I'm just saying. It's just one of those funny things. In Corpus Christi. That's another town. Because I've also been to Port Arthur, and I really liked that. But I also didn't get a whole lot of time there. I think I was only there for a couple of days. But Port Arthur was nice. Trying to think. I mean, I've been to San Diego. That's nice, but way too damned expensive. And plus, the people were really weird. Been to LA. Did not like LA. I don't know how a city can be so dirty yet so clean at the same time. Oh, that makes sense. You know, and that's the hard part is that like really understanding how weird LA was, let alone just any part of Southern California. Northern California is not too bad, and Eastern California is not bad. But anywhere near the coast, those people lose their damn minds. Oh, yeah, Detroit. Well, think about it. In the 80s, Detroit was the place they placed RoboCop because that's where they thought it was going to go. That's the way it was going to go. Funnily enough, it's just everybody just decided to leave it. Like all the companies and even people were moving out. Like to the point where I think they gave back parts of the city limits to the county again, and they're trying to turn it into farm fields. Like Detroit's going to have to totally reinvent itself, and we have corporate policies to blame. I don't know. It was set there. I don't know if it was actually filmed there, but the whole idea was that complete crime-ridden city that was taken over by a corporation was gonna be Detroit. And sorry if I no, that's why they set RoboCop in Detroit. Because it was so bad, and everybody just assumed it was just gonna keep going, and instead just everybody left. Like, nope, we're done. Which, I mean, corporate policy is very much to blame for that. Very much. And I think I think we should hold a lot more people accountable for that kind of stuff. Like if you're leaving a city, if you're moving your stuff, you should be held accountable for helping transition the city off of you. You know, if you're the main thing that that city is built around, you should have certain responsibility towards that city. I don't care. I don't work for corporate. See, that's the beautiful part about this. It's why I can't keep jobs, is because I tell corporate to stuff it on a regular basis. Because I don't care. If I see somebody abusing their power, I'm going to speak up about it. Pure and simple. Like, I can't. I can't take it. I can't even understand why somebody would want to get into power if all they want to do is make everybody their slave. Like, when is enough enough? I mean, how much money do you need? It's like, what is the video game? Ready or Not. Just reached this whole huge issue because they're having to censor part of the video game because consoles have different ratings settings than PCs, and everybody loves the PC game. Like, it made a whole bunch of money. And yet, you know, they want to expand into consoles, so now they're having to censor even PCs because the consoles won't let them do it. And I'm like, well, if... Hold on one second. Oh, you got her? Okay. Sorry, I was hearing the cat, like, freak out, and I was trying to figure out what was going on, because she normally doesn't do that. But this video game, Ready or Not, like, I don't really care about the video game itself. I've never played it. But it's been out for like 2 years or something like that. And now they're censoring it so that they can switch it over to, you know, so they can port it over to consoles too. But that means that every PC player's game is going to be censored after they bought it. That seems ridiculous. And it's all just to make more money. It's not like the game hasn't made its money back. They just want more money, but they're going to compromise what they made so they can make more money. And this means I can't trust the developers. You know, once you compromise, you know, like I was watching this guy, Legendary Drops, you know, and he talks very much about how, right, you know, this YouTuber, Legendary Drops, talks about how, you know, games journalists, you know, they compromise themselves, they get sponsored in, you know, these video games. And well, just a few days ago, he's sponsored by a video game that doesn't even exist yet. Because he's probably fairly controversial right now. Because he's took a sponsorship from NetEase, which is problematic in itself. And I've also mentioned this in the past, so, you know, forgive me. And he's taking a full sponsorship for a game that doesn't even exist yet. Like, it's not even playable yet. And he's talking how wonderful it is through a friggin' cinematic trailer. Like, you don't even see gameplay. It's just a cinematic trailer. Like, I immediately unsubscribed. Like, this is ridiculous. This is dumb. How can you do this? It's why, if I ever get offered a sponsorship, you'll know something's wrong with me if I ever take a video game sponsorship, unless I preface it with something, like, different. But I really don't see myself doing it because it would feel compromising to me. Like, I would have to say good things about a game, and I couldn't be as critical as I want to be. Like, it's just a line. But, like, say, you know, getting sponsored by Cheeky soap, I don't see it compromising there. You know, being sponsored by things I actually use, no, I don't see a compromise because I use the product. If I do Raid Shadow Legends, you know that I was 2 steps from bankruptcy, and you know not to take it seriously. It's just tongue-in-cheek. But see, I think that's one thing that I think a lot of people really need to understand about mobile games. Where do they come up with all this money? I mean, you think about how many influencers got paid. I mean, say specifically Raid Shadow Legends. Some of those guys were getting paid $10,000 for an ad, a 30-second ad. And there was, like, you couldn't turn on for a short time a video without having some form of Raid Shadow Legends sponsorship to it. That's scary. That they were shelling out so much money. And don't get me wrong, I played Raid Shadow Legends for a little while. It was kind of fun. I goofed off with it. And then I was done. And I wasn't sponsored to say that. I literally just played it because I wanted to, because my buddy played it. And so I tried it for a while. It got boring. I moved on. In fact, I don't really play mobile games anymore because they're just garbage. You know, there's an old one that I play, Marvel Puzzle Quest. So if I ever get sponsored by Marvel Puzzle Quest, it's because I play it. And I love the game. It's just a 3-match game where I get to collect comic covers and I get to play around with it. That's really it. 90% of everything I've earned in the game, I haven't paid a dime for. I earn everything through playing. But also, again, you know, I've probably been playing that game for almost 10 years now. Because it's just a 3-match. I mean, it's a timeless game. It's not because it's Marvel that I play it. That just makes it fun. But it's a 3-match game. They're timeless. If I want to waste some time, I play it. Simple and easy. I will sponsor things that I use, that I believe in, because that is the best way to grow your audience. I will not be sponsored by things I don't use. And you'll know for sure, if I ever take a HelloFresh sponsorship, my channel has been compromised, because I think HelloFresh is probably one of the most useless things. It's overexpensive. Right. It's overexpensive delivery to you home that you can sign up with Walmart and have the same damn groceries sent to your home. It takes 5 minutes to print out recipes from or even look. Yes. It takes you 5-10 minutes to find recipes that you want to try out. Buy the groceries from Walmart and get it delivered to your home if you live in an area that does it. If not, it's your normal grocery shopping. Then you come home and you make the stuff. You have the recipes right there. That's all HelloFresh is offering you. Is pre-prepped groceries at twice the price. Like the ridiculous twice the price. And everything is individually bagged. Well, no. I mean, once you realize how much waste goes with it, how expensive it is, because I looked into it. In fact, I think looking into it is what got us into ButcherBox. You know, if I ever get sponsored by ButcherBox, that's a real thing I use. This is meat sent to your home, and I've always had good quality, really good quality with it. You know, so I mean, there are certain things that I would love getting sponsored with. Well, yes, the drink mix, Gamer Subs. I'm not big enough for them to even take a sniff at me, but I would love a sponsorship from Gamer Subs. Yeah, they have the waifu cups, but they have great flavors, and you can get caffeine-free versions that taste good. You want to up your water game? Get the caffeine-free versions. And sure, it might seem really expensive that you're spending Bespoke Post. I would take a sponsorship from there. I've actually used those products. Neon waifu cups. Hey, maybe someday. Maybe someday. But yeah, Bespoke Post. I mean, as far as I know, everything I got from Bespoke Post worked beautifully. Everything I grabbed, I loved. I mean, I still have the bag I got from it. It's like a doctor's bag. It's a great weekender bag. I'm still using one of the knives I got from them. I used to have the whole cocktail set, but I had to get rid of that when we moved because I just couldn't bring it with me. The quality of the stuff I got, I am absolutely pleased with. I'm just going to be honest. That's... Oh, it's not for dudes. If you want Bespoke Post, trust me, there's plenty of stuff for them. There is plenty of stuff for anybody, because the whole point is that you have a subscription and you get to choose what you get. Like, you get a special box, but you get to choose what you're getting. There's certain boxes. And there was plenty of the boxes that I wanted to get that I didn't get. I mean, there's like new ones that show up every once in a while. And then there's some that I'm trying to think. There's some that, are perennial. You can get it quite often. There's others that show up every once in a while or seasonally. And I don't think I ever had anything I complained about. Oh, no, I've actually got 3 knives from them that I still use. Yeah. I mean, I'm just sitting there trying to think of, like Bespoke Post. I get enough money, I'm going to be getting that again. I miss getting that box. It was so much fun to like, oh, I want this one this month. I want this one this month, I mean, I even got a bread making kit. Oh, the fire one. That was awesome. You have a good night, Green Jeans. I'm wrapping it up soon. I'm sorry. But, we got to talking about sponsorships. And I mean, the fire option, that looks really cool. I want the one where you can smoke your own cocktails. There's also basics of Scrimshaw. There's so many different things that you can get through Bespoke Post that I would love to get. My wife got it for me for my birthday is where I got that started. She started that and just kept getting it for me for a while. And then when we had to cut back on expenses, unfortunately, that was one of the things to go. Because I chose a dog over my Bespoke Post. I mean, it's like, oh, because we had the dog Bark Box, I think is what it was called. And he'd get his toys and stuff. And we had to pick one of them to get rid of. Exactly. A worthy sacrifice. But yeah, anyway, I mean, Green Jeans reminded me I probably should. How did I miss that? Yes, the P. Yes. That is from the Bark Box. And he would shred all the other toys, and that's why we didn't mind losing them. But he had this little P, and it used to come in a blanket, but he lost the blanket years ago. But this little P, he was so gentle with. He didn't tear it up. That was what was amazing is that this one, he wanted to keep around and play with. Which is why, in his little memorial at the end of the couch here next to me, we've still got the P. We've got his squirrel on a scooter, the platypus, and the P, the 3 toys that he never destroyed. He'd love to cuddle with either the squirrel or the platypus to go to sleep to, and he loved playing with his little P. We also have his Grinch blanket, because he had his own Grinch blanket, and he'd have to be tucked in. And on that, speaking of tucking in, you all have a wonderful evening, and I'll see you here tomorrow. Remember, I'm starting early, 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock Central Time. Good night, y'all. Much love. Sleep well.